In this video, I'm going to talk about iOS 14. What's this going to mean for e-commerce? So let's begin. So what is it? What's happening here? So sometime in 2021, presumably either, late January, sometime in February, or at latest, probably early to mid-March, Apple will be rolling out a prompt for users to opt out the first time you launch an app. So I'm going to go over this a little bit, what it looks like later on in the slide, but just keep this in mind. Basically what's going to happen is, let's say that you open up Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or Amazon or YouTube for the first time. It's going to ask you, this certain app wishes to track you, and then it's going to give you a little prompt that says this is because they want to deliver you more personalized advertising, for example. And they either have the option to say yes, I consent, or no, I do not consent. So that's going to be huge, especially if you're an advertiser. So here's the main one from Apple that we're most concerned about. Because if you're doing with the app space and you're creating mobile apps and you're monetizing through apps and the display network and the audience network from Facebook, then this is not going to be the video for you, as I talk more about from e-commerce perspective, from a lead generation perspective, and all that stuff. So basically, this is the most relevant in that case. So displaying targeted advertisements in your app based on user data collected from apps and websites owned by other companies. So basically what this is saying in layman's terms is it basically saying, let's say that user A takes an action on your website, which is, for example, a purchase. So it takes it back to Facebook, and then Facebook recognizes that this person did purchase from this store, and they're going to categorize them as this person likes to purchase, right? And then they're interested in this and that and that and this and so on and so on. The algorithms are very complex and it's very hard to understand. But that's basically what you need to know about this. So this is what most important, because this is what people ask me all the time is, will Facebook not show ads? It's like the short answer is no. They will still show ads, but they'll be less targeted than before. So let's say that, I don't know, you're a young single guy and they show you an ad on wedding gowns, for example. Obviously, you're not going to be very interested in that. And then that's going to be the effect of Facebook. So it's actually going to potentially be a negative flywheel, as there's more users on the platform, but they get less targeted advertisers. Then that means there's less users on the platform, and then there's less advertisers to go for less users, less targeted ads, and it's like a huge negative flywheel. So that's something to keep in mind. I doubt this is going to happen in the worst case. That's probably going to be worst case, is just Facebook goes bankrupt because of this, and then we had to move to another platform. But that's okay. But that's yet to be seen. So basically, this little screenshot, I know it's a little bit small here, but basically this is saying, this app called Pal About would like permission to track you across apps and websites owned by other companies. So basically, the user has two different options. They can either allow tracking, or they can ask the app not to track. So basically, when the app doesn't allow you to track, that means it scrambles your IDFA. That means that you will get less targeted advertisements, and then I'll talk about this later on in the video, and that means that Facebook can only go off of limited measurements in order to display targeted advertising to you. So the question might be, why is Apple doing this, right? So one of the main reasons why is because of a reaction to the Epic Games lawsuit. Now I'm going to talk about it a little bit after this slide, and I'll show you the Wikipedia article about the Epic Games versus Apple lawsuit. It also has to do with Google. But basically, in a nutshell, what happened there is Epic Games, they were tired of paying the 30% fee for selling on the App Store, so they created their own Epic Games web store for Fortnite. And then Apple first took notice of it, took them off the App Store, and then Google also took notice of it and took them off the Play Store. And then there was all this mess about, Epic Games. They sued Apple, and then Apple sued them back. And it's a really complicated thing, but that's basically what happened there. And shortly put, Apple wants a 30% cut, and so does Google. because remember, they make about like 50 something billion dollars from their app store. So they still want their cut, right? So Apple in the future might want to enter the advertising channel. Obviously, at Apple, you don't really know what's going to happen with them. They like to keep everything secret. That's part of their mission principles. So the way they want to do this is by taking down their main competitors, namely that's Facebook and Google, because those two are the main channels in advertising right now. And obviously you got things like Snapchat or TikTok or stuff like that. So that's basically what's happening there, and that could be Apple's game plan going ahead into 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025. So one of Apple's core privacies is actually privacy, which is a good thing. There's a lot of stuff about, Cambridge Analytica and data breaches, and they really want to protect their customers. So I'll show you a little bit about Apple's privacy and what we could see from this point forward. And lastly, Tim Cook and Mark Zuckerberg also don't like each other. They've been feuding for the longest time. They are not supportive of their respective companies. There's a lot of fighting within Silicon Valley. Basically, they just don't like each other, even though they need each other for the most part, right? So first I'll show you about what Apple's privacy is. So we see here, this is from apple.com/privacy. So this is one of their mission statements. Privacy is a fundamental human right. At Apple, it's also one of our core values. Your devices are important to so many parts of your life. What you share from those experiences, who you share it with, should be up to you. We design Apple products to protect your privacy and give you control over your information. It's not always easy, but that's kind of innovation that we believe in. You know what? They're right. They have a good point here. It's like, we store a lot of, very sensitive information on our phones, on our iPads, on our laptops, and we don't want our data in the wrong hands of the wrong people. But of course, there are unintended consequences to this, namely if you're an advertiser and if you make money from it. But that's going to be another case. So I'm going to go over here pretty quick about Apple's measures again in terms of privacy. So this is the one that a lot of people are concerned about. It's like ITP, which stops advertisers from following you across site to site. Think of it as you will. Obviously, I think it's a pretty bad thing. The Maps one, they actually already implemented in iOS 12, I believe. And obviously, it does allow you to request GPS access. But for the most part, people are pretty good about that. Because it's like, hey, I want to open up a Maps navigation system. So I'm probably going to click yes anyway, to be honest with you. And then photos is going to be a big thing, right? And then messages, obviously this is one of their selling points, right? It's going to be the new BlackBerry and whatnot. And then Siri. So this is the most important part that I believe is going to be really important for the future of advertising. Is you might see Facebook going towards more of an Apple model here. So basically, Apple News delivers content based on your interests, but isn't connected to your identity. So Apple doesn't really know what you read. So many news sources keep track of your identity and create a profile for you. So they do deliver personalized content without knowing who you are, right? So the content you read is associated with a random identifier, not your Apple ID. So you still get editor-created content in a personalized newsfeed. You can stay up to date with the latest news and stories. Because Apple News uses machine learning, the more you use it, the better your app gets to know who you like, without Apple ever knowing what you're into. So basically, this is what I believe the direction of Facebook ads is going towards, where they will deliver you personalized content, but they just won't know who you are exactly. So they won't link it to your actual profile, and they'll just link it to, say, based on what you've read, what pages you like, and then from there, they're going to deliver you more relevant content based on that. So I do believe that this is not going to play a huge effect on it if they implement it this way. Obviously, who knows what goes down in Silicon Valley, but that's just one of the things that they could do here, right? So I'm going to go back to my slides here. So how does this affect Facebook, right? That's the most important part. So if you're a mobile app developer, you're basically screwed. This is basically a play on mostly the mobile app developers because remember, there are two ways to monetize your app. There's one way through in-app purchases, and there's another way through monetizing through advertisements, right? So basically, when you're playing a game like Flappy Bird, for example, you'll see that there's a lot of advertisements there, and that's from either Google's display network or Facebook's audience network. That's a way for the user to gain a free app, but that's the necessary evil because obviously not everyone's Mother Teresa here. You either need to pay the price of in-app purchases in order to enjoy the good user experience on your iPhone or your iPad, or you're going to have to see all the ads. So that's basically the catch-22 here. But that's what Apple's trying to prevent because they want their slice of the pie, right? So you must find a way to implement in-app purchases in order to make money in-app. So that's if you're a mobile app developer. So that's basically what Apple's trying to do here is they're trying to take people who have been monetizing through the audience network, through the display network, and move them towards in-app purchases so that Google doesn't get their money, Facebook doesn't get their money, but Apple gets their money, you know? So if you're an e-com like I am, you will see a degradation in lookalike audiences and possibly broad audiences and delay to no reporting on certain conversions. So basically what this means is, let's say that your user visits your web page and they don't convert in the required time frame, which the new attribution window is going to be 7 days. So basically what this means is if a user comes to your page and then they leave and then they come back 28 days later, then that attribution won't be towards that certain ad set. So you're going to see a lot of like missed conversions there, but you're going to have to estimate everything. That's the tricky part about this. So another thing, I talked about this earlier when we were going over Apple News, is we may see a movement towards interest-based and page-like-based targeting, where Facebook recognizes that you like material on, say, I don't know, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Toronto Blue Jays and Toronto Raptors. So they're going to show you more content that has to do with the Toronto Raptors, Toronto Blue Jays, and the Toronto Maple Leafs without actually knowing who you are, your identity, even though you have a Facebook profile, right? So let's talk about Facebook and Android and desktop because this is more relevant to iOS, iPad OS, and probably Mac OS as well. So in order to simplify operations, Facebook may apply these regulations to Android users or desktop users. So if you know anything about business, for most companies, they really want to simplify their operations. So they just don't want to do Apple users, because if they only do special attributions for Apple users, at some point or another, they're going to apply that to Google users and desktop users as well. Now, most people do use Chrome on computers, and Chrome has told us in 2022 that they're going towards a cookieless world. So keep that in mind, and this might be the future, right? So another thing that Facebook could do, and other platforms like Snapchat or TikTok or stuff like that, is they could use Android or desktop user behavior to predict iOS user behavior, right? So obviously I don't know what goes on at Facebook. I don't work there, so I can't totally predict on this, but could be a method that they could explore or go under. Because you're allowed to track people on Android or desktop, because remember, Google does make money from advertisements themselves. So they're not going to be like Apple, where it's basically like all advertisement bad. Google's like, there are unintended consequences when you disallow all tracking. So you might see something along those lines, but it's still yet to be seen. The most important part is don't worry about it because it's yet to be seen. When we see it, then we can react and then we can adjust our strategy, right? So as I talked earlier, you may take the Apple News approach, where they can use machine learning to see what type of content that you've been reading and what type of stores you might have visited and purchased, but they might not be attributed as well, right? So, does this affect other platforms? If you're seeing this, because Facebook has been the most vocal about this, right? They're like, oh my God, you're not supporting the small businesses and all stuff like that. And meanwhile, people like Google, Snap Inc., or TikTok, whatever that company is, they've been kind of quiet, and as well as Amazon, right? The short answer is yes, it affects everything. So it affects YouTube, Google, Amazon, TikTok, Snapchat, etc., right? So Amazon, for example, relies on the searches and the things you buy in order to recommend things that you might be interested in purchasing. So if you go to Amazon, right, I'm going to actually go there myself. Amazon.ca. So let's see here. So you can see the related items that I viewed recently. So lately I've been looking at a lot of guitars, right? So Amazon knows this because I'm logged in right now, and lately I've been looking at guitars, right? And then it also could be, hey, you bought this in the past, buy it again, right? This is going to be a huge effect on every single platform, whether it's Amazon, TikTok, Google, and then it knows like what I purchased, my shopping trends, and Amazon has complex algorithms as well, So we'll go back to our presentation here. So YouTube's also affected, based on the things you watch, you do get targeted ads. So for example, you log into Google and you're watching a lot of stuff on like business and, maybe you look at a lot of Graham Stephan or Ty Lopez or Grant Cardone or stuff like that, then you're probably going to get a lot of advertisers from business owners that are selling them. I'm not going to comment on whether their stuff's good or not because I'm not in that niche. I don't want to judge because there's good people and there's bad. It's your job to kind of figure that out. But anyway, you get suggested people who may enhance your life. You get ads of courses that may improve your life based on the things you're interested. If you're watching business videos, for example, you might get ads on Wix.com or Squarespace or stuff like that. So that might be affected, but it's yet to be seen. So if you want to leave Facebook to go to other platforms, you basically will see the same scenario. You have to deal with the same challenges. So the best thing to do instead is learn how to navigate through this. Business is constantly evolving and you have to learn how to adjust to everything, right? So the main question is, are users going to opt out? So the short answer is who knows? Nobody really knows, right? So there's one or two things may happen, right? One is going to be, they're like, yeah, whatever, allow. Because think about it. When the user opens up the app for the first time, they open every app that they're interested in. Like Facebook, they're going to ask them. Instagram, they're going to ask them. TikTok, they're going to ask them. Snapchat, they're going to ask them. Now, if you visited some website, they're always about, accepting cookies, for example. And I don't know about you, but you've seen that so many times that you're just like, yeah, I'll allow it, whatever. I'm not even going to read it, Or two of them, if they have a negative vendetta against Facebook or Amazon or YouTube or Google, then they're going to be like, no, I don't want Facebook to track me. No, I don't want Instagram to track me. No, I don't want WhatsApp to track me. They're going to opt out. So what can we do as marketers and advertisers? Well, the short answer is we need to get better at marketing. So what we can do is study David Ogilvy, Claude Hopkins, and learn direct response, right? Remember, these are old school guys, and human behavior hasn't changed much in the last 100,000 years. Humans are still pretty much the same. We're still animals at heart, so we're still influenced by the same behavior. But we use Facebook and YouTube and Snapchat and TikTok as our vehicles to get our message across. Then from there, we're using marketing in order to get our message, to get them into our webpage, in order to get them to our funnel, in order to get them to our store, get them to make a purchase, yada, 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 right? So gone are the days when you could post a dropshipping ad and rely on the algorithm to find new customers, right? So gone are the get-rich-quick scheme days where you actually have to get good at marketing now. You had to actually put in the work, study direct response, know your avatar, know who your ideal customer is, know what their targeting is, what their interests are, and how to get their attention, and what really gets their gears going, right? So Facebook is going to get a lot harder if it wasn't hard already, right? There are currently like 10 million advertisers, and especially with this iOS 14, we're going to see a lot of them start to drop off, and you're going to see a lot of like good small businesses drop off as well, which is a shame, right? You know, I've worked with a lot of small businesses with great products, and it's just a shame to see them go, you know, because it's just they have great products, and you know, the world would be much better when they have their products in their hands. So get rich quick is no longer the case with Facebook ads. So a lot of people get into Facebook ads in the first place because they do want to make money, they're in survival mode, they want to create another source of income, they're tired of their job. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there's still work you really had to do in order to master the Facebook ads platform. Just like anything. If you wanted to master programming or coding, or I don't know, you wanted to master guitar, you know, you have to learn your scales, you have to learn different songs, you have to learn different chords before you can play Jimi Hendrix or Eddie Van Halen or stuff like that. You need to know the basics, and that's the same with Facebook ads, right? So that's basically a quick video on some of the things about iOS 14, my thoughts about it, how to navigate through it. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button, click subscribe, and make sure you click the bell icon when I get so you get notified when I release a new video. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to release more videos in the future. Have yourselves a good day. See you later.